Gillis here, and today I wanted to show you an activation and preparation routine that I use, and I'm using the app LiquidText on an iPad, and I hope to show you some of the things that LiquidText can do to help activate terminology and concepts when you're preparing. Now, the idea of activation is actually not to do things efficiently. You need repetition in order to remember things when you're in the booth. So the idea is really to build in repetition in a convenient and useful way, rather than to do things very, very quickly or automatically. So I've got this document here from the commission, and what I'm going to do is start by highlighting in two colours. I'm going to highlight in blue what I consider to be content issues. This I'll do as I'm reading through the document. So the decision is about single and continuous infringement of Article 101, and I'll go through. And the idea is that this blue, I'm going to be able to read it back later. At the same time, I'm going to go through and mark in green terminology that I think is going to be useful. So here I think SSA bonds is something I'm not very familiar with. I'm going to do trade. I'm going to note traded to myself because I don't think it's a cognate in French. And over the counter. Foreign sovereign bonds looks interesting. So then I've carried on the next page, and I've done some more, but we'll stick with this top page to start with. So obviously, as per usual, I would look these up either in an official translation or online, try and get a version in the other language or languages necessary. For this case it was French, and I found for SSA bonds, they're not very imaginative, OSSA, so obligation SSA. Traded is négocier, and over the counter clear. Now the foreign sovereign bonds is interesting because the term is the same, oblique souverain, but what I've discovered is that the French emphasizes this in other currencies to get the foreign devise, and the French official version doesn't actually have this word foreign there at all. Okay, so I've got some blue and I've got some green, and the very first activation activity was actually just writing in the French term on top of the English term. The next one I can do is to read through the document. So I can either read through for the blue and look for the content, then I get a quick activate of what's going on and what content I need to remember, or I can go through and reread the green and just test my vocab quickly and activate the vocab, which I've got in various places. The next thing I'm going to do is specific to LiquidText. I'm going to put my finger at the top of the screen here, and I'm going to scroll the bottom of the screen. What you can see happening is the screen scrunching together here. They call this a pinch. This allows me to see two pages at the same time in the same document. So now I'm going to write this terminology at the top of the first page. So immunity application. Demande. That's nothing too radical. Excuse my handwriting. Leniency. It's all part of this particular procedure. Statement of objections. Communication des griefs. And Last one we'll do today, proxy value of sales. Here's the remplacement. So this is obviously very mechanical. I've had to write them out. That's helped me remember them in the future. But it's also very useful because they're on the front page of this document now. So when I open this document from a list of documents, the key terminology is going to appear right on the front page rather than only down here later in the document. And I find that really useful when I'm working. It just gives me a little reminder, a little activation of the terminology when I open the document. Now the last thing that we can do in LiquidText is export highlights, and this brings us back to why I use these two different types of highlights. So here the felt tip, which is a squiggly, and here the marking, where you can see the text is properly marked. I marked everything in green, properly marked, and that will now in LiquidText export. I can get rid of these titles, and then what you see here is the list of the terms that were highlighted, and they can be exported to a Word file where you can make them into a glossary very easily, or you can import them into Quizlet and make yourself flashcards, and those you can use to activate the terminology again before the meeting. Very handy in public transport, I find. So there you have it, a few ideas about activation